Hello guys, how you doing? So I'm reading Josefus Flavius, Antiquities of the Jews, and I got to book 18, and I got to chapter 3 that is actually talking about Jesus. And you won't expect, to laugh when you when when you read a history book, okay? But yeah, this guy, Josefus Flavius, is like a Larry David, I'm telling you, So, the book Antiquities of the Jews was written in the year 94, about 20 years after the first Jewish revolt against the Romans. Josefus Flavius himself was one of the commanders of the revolt. He was captured by the Romans, and he was brought to Rome, and over there he wrote a book because he wanted to explain the history of the Jews to the Romans. So he wrote a very famous book, Antiquities of the Jews, basically history from the creation of the world until the the revolt against the Romans. Also, there's another book called The Wars of the Jews. Now, the thing about the mentioning of Jesus Christ is that many people are saying that this is actually a forgery, and actually Josephus is not mentioning Jesus Christ. Jesus is actually not mentioned in the book Yusufun by Josephus. So and there is some ground for that, and I want to show you why it actually is not mentioning Jesus. And even if it was, you wouldn't want it to be like that. No Christian will want it to be like this. Look, this is our Jesus, right? I don't think you're gonna like what I'm about to read to you. So anyhow, so in book 18 of chapter 3, it's called Sedation of the Jews against Pontius Pilatus, concerning Christ and what befell Paulina and the Jews at Rome. Okay, so we go to the third chapter inside chapter 3. Out of the blue, Josephus is writing, now there was about the time of Pontius Pilatus, Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, for he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as receive the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was Christ. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men among us, meaning the Jews, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him in the first did not forsake him, for he appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets are foretold, when these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him, and the tribe of Christians so named from him are not extinct to this day. End of quote. Okay, well, I gotta tell you that this is probably one of the shortest clause in a chapter of Josephus, because he writes long. I'm going to read you the next episode in the same chapter 3, and basically you will see how something you can say in three sentences or 4 sentences, he's writing 2 pages. This is Josephus. Josephus is like some sort of a long talk guy, and only here when he's coming to talk about Jesus, supposedly very important one, he's just really making sure, which raised concern that this is actually a forgery, something implanted by whoever translate that from Hebrew to Greek or from Greek to Latin. So I'm going to read you the next. Oh, hold on for a second. I'm gonna cut down and say goodbye. We're on. So I'm going to read you the next episode. This story has nothing to do with Judea. It has nothing to do with Jesus. It has nothing to do with Jews. What this story has to do with antiquities of the Jews? You need to ask the question. The next story that I'm going to read to you has nothing to do with Jews or with Judea in the first century at all. Why is it there? You need to think about that. Okay, so I'm going to read to you, and so bear with me, okay? About the same time, also another sad calamity put the Jews into disorder, and certain shameful practice happened about the temple of Isis was at Rome. I will now first take notice of the wicked attempt about the temple of Isis, and will then give account of the Jewish affairs. There was at Rome a woman whose name was Paulina, one who, on account of dignity of her ancestors and by the regular conduct of her virtuous life, was at a great reputation. She was also very rich, and although she was of a beautiful countenance, and that is the flower of her age, within women are the most gay, yet did she lead a life of great modesty. She was married to Saturnius, one that was very in every way answerable to her in excellent character. Decius Mundus fell in love with this woman, who was a man very high in the quarters in order, and as she was of too great dignity to be caught by present, and had already rejected them, though they had been sent in great abundance, and he was still more inflamed in love with her, and so much that he promised to give her 2,000 Attic drachma for one night lodging, and when this would not prevail upon her, and he was not able to bear his misfortune in his amours, he thought it would best way to famish himself to death for want of food on account of Paulina's sad refusal, and he determined with himself to die after such a manner, and he went on his with purpose. Accordingly, now Mundus had a freed woman who had been made free by his father, whose name was Ide, one skillful in all sorts of mischief. This woman was very much grieved the young man's resolution to kill himself, for he did not conceal his intention to destroy himself from others, and he came to him and encouraged him by her discourse, and made him hope by some promises she gave him that he might obtain a night's lodging with Paulina. And when he joyfully hearkened to her entreaties, she said she wanted no more than 50,000 drachma for the entrapping of the woman. So when she had encouraged the young man and gotten as much money as she required, she did not take the same method as had been taken before, because she perceived that the woman was by no means to be tempted by money, but as she knew that she was very much given to the worship of the goddess Isis, she devised the following stratagem. She went on some of Isis' priests, and upon the strongest assurance, she persuaded them by words, by chiefly, and by offer of money of 25,000 drachma in hand, and as much more when the fiend had taken effect, and told them the passion of the young man, and persuade them to use all means possible to beguile the woman. So they were drawn into promise to do so by the large sum of gold, and they were to have according. The oldest of them went immediately to Paulina, and upon his admittance he desired to speak with her by herself. When that was granted him, he told her that he was sent by the god Anubis, who was fallen in love with her and enjoined her to come to him. Upon this she took the message very kindly, and valued herself greatly upon his condescension of Anubis, and told her husband that she had a message sent to her, and was to sup and lie with Anubis. So he agreed to her acceptance of the offer, and fully satisfied with the chastity of his wife. Accordingly, she went to the temple, and after she had supped there and it was hard to go to sleep, the priest shut the doors to the temple. When in the holy part of it the lights were also put out, and then did Mundus leap out, for he was hidden there, and did not fail to enjoin her, who was in his service all night long, as supposing he was the god. And when he was gone away, which was before was the priest who knew nothing of this and were stirring, Paulina came early to her husband and told him how the god Anubis has appeared to her. Among her friends also, she declared how great a value she put upon this second page, upon this favor, who partly disbelieved the thing when they reflect on this, when they reflected on its nature, and partly were amazed at it, as having no pretense for not believing it when they considered the modesty and the dignity of the person. But now, on the third day after what had been done, Mundus met Paulina and said, "Nay, Paulina, thee hast saved me 200,000 drachma, which some thee cited have added to thee own family. Yet hast thee not failed to be at my service in the manner I invited thee. As for the reproaches thee hast laid upon Mundus, I value not the business of names, but I rejoice in the pleasure I reaped by what I did, while I took myself the name of Anubis." When he had said this, he went his way, but now she began to come to the sense of the gruesomeness of what she had done, and rent her garments, and told her husband of the horrid nature of the wicked contrivance, and prayed him to not neglect to assist her in this case. So he discovered the fact to the emperor, whereupon Tiberius inquired into the matter fruitfully by examining the priest about it, and ordered them to be crucified, as well as Ide, who was the occasion of their perdition, and who had contrived the whole matter, which was so injurious to the woman. He also demolished the temple of Isis, and gave order that her statue should be thrown into the river Tiber, while he only banished Mundus, but did no more to him, because he supposed that that what crime he had committed was done out of passion of love. And these were circumstances which concerned the temple of Isis and the injuries occasioned by her priests. I now return to the relation of what happened about this time of the Jews to Rome, as I formerly told you I would. Okay, I will close here. So after reading this very long episode, you can see that you can basically sum all of this in maybe 4 or 5 sentences. But so this is why you must wonder why the only mention of Jesus, by the way, very laconic mention of Jesus in Antiquities of the Jews, and right next to it there's a story about a woman that is basically is fooled by another person to think that she's making love with a god or a goddess. Sorry. You must reflect how this story relates to the Virgin story, the Virgin Mary in Christianity. And you probably need to understand that when Josephus write this story, the narrative of Christianity is just in the creation. Is just in the creation. They're just pulling here. They have this guy, Jesus, and they put in the story of Mary, and they put in the story of the gospel. So it's not like, obviously, I mean, if the story of the New Testament, as it's been told in the gospel, was as it is, then Josephus would tell you there was a guy, he had 12 disciples, and then he was crucified, So clearly none of this happened. Guys, I have to tell you some very bad news. What you read in the New Testament doesn't appear in Josephus. He was there. Josephus is a Jew from Judea in the 1st century, and he says nothing about the apostles. Okay? Nothing about, but also about the Virgin Mary and all this other stuff. So what you read in the New Testament and what you read in Antiquities of the Jews, not the same. So you must question that. You must question the New Testament. I have no problem to do so. Why can't you do it by yourself? Now, it is possible that the story of Mary the Virgin is probably not the way it was, but it's probably the reason that he's writing about the story of Paulina is probably because this is something that reflect to the story of this woman that became pregnant, and she told her husband that it was from the Holy Ghost. And I think that he heard about that. He probably heard it's very funny, and he also probably heard about Christianity, this new thing, and so he's reflecting to that. Of course, Josephus never heard about Christianity. He heard about a cult that they're saying that there was a woman and she became pregnant from God, and their son is the Messiah. That's what he heard as a Jew living in Judea in the first century. So he's giving you this story, which is probably true, just to reflect to a narrative that he heard. But this is actually the real story of Mary the Virgin, basically. You understand that? This is the reality. So I think the conclusion is that Jesus Christ is actually not a real historic figure, and this is why the if Jesus was a real person, that he wouldn't be presented the way it is presented in Josefus Flavius. There would be much more stories about him. There are people that Josephus talk about in entire pages. So many people, Herod and Agrippa and other guys, and Saturninus and all these other people. He's talking about, but Jesus just the shortest. This is the shortest episode in the books in the entire book of Antiquity of the Jews. You must wonder why, and the reason for that is because this one is a fake episode implanted by whoever translated the book, and actually there is no story of Jesus in Antiquities of the Jews. This is the reality you need to accept. Goodbye.